G'day guys, Tillis20 here and welcome back to Marble Mountain. I like to think of this episode as a bit of a part 2 to the last episode of Marble Mountain. We've been doing some pretty big changes to the landscape, and this episode is a bit of a continuation with that video that I did last week. So if you haven't seen that, I highly suggest you go and check that one out, at least watch maybe the first 10 or so minutes of it. We're going to be doing a live play at the 15-minute mark, so I can give you a bit of an overview of all the changes we do. I would think that this area is pretty finished after this episode, and now it's basically just the detail work and adding in those towns and all those, extra little details that, we sort of set the scene for in this video, but we don't really do too much detail work. A lot of people have been asking about the save game, so if you ever want to play on the save game of Marble Mountain, I've got 3 up on the Steam Workshop, and the map is also up on the Steam Workshop. I do plan to release the next save game on the Steam Workshop, probably not for a few months, mostly because we're doing some really big changes and I like to sort of have completed areas when I put things up on the Steam Workshop. If you're absolutely dying to get into the save game and check out all the builds and everything that I'm doing in each episode of Marble Mountain, then it is available to my patrons on a weekly basis. It's something like $2 a month, which isn't even the price of a coffee in Australia. And there's also a whole bunch of other perks you can go and check out while you're there, like early access and getting to actually build in Marble Mountain in some of the episodes, and save games for all my series, and work in progress pictures, and blah 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 blah. You get the idea. Link in the description to my Patreon page if you're interested in supporting me in that way. But in terms of the episode, so I'm gonna leave in a whole bunch of footage that I don't end up keeping, like as in the build I don't end up keeping. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to figure out where I want this lake to go. And originally I wanted there to be this dam that's going to sit in this lake, and I still want to put a dam here, but not in this particular location. I do want a dam in Marble Mountain. I just think it's going to be better suited in a different location, and I'll talk about where I want that to go in the live play. But I just don't think it's going to fit in this particular spot, because I think that the amount of water that it's letting out is going to be probably too much for what I want this this canyon to sort of have. I would like there to be like this really nice raging river that goes through this canyon, and yeah, and I just think that this would not be the place for a dam. So I thought, let's actually change that location. I also think the lake could go in a much better spot too, because I just think that's not a very good spot for it. Also, I should also mention that a lot of the changes you will see me make in this episode, you also, if you've watched the last episode, you might think, hey, didn't you change that in the last video? Well, like I said, this is a bit of a part 2 because I sort of did this whole build. It was like one big bulk. It was like a big bulk of a build. So you might see bits like that might be done prior to all the changes I made in the last episode, and vice versa. So if you keep an eye out, you might see the landscape change a bit. I had to really change around where the order of this footage. In the last episode, I mentioned that I was watching this really bad series on Netflix called Virgin River or Virgin Lake. I can't remember the name of it still. I don't recommend it, but I do really like the setting for that show. It's sort of based around these like beautiful mountains. I guess it is in California. I think around San Francisco, but I could be wrong. And I guess like the closest area I could really find to the setting for that show would probably be around Lake Tahoe, or maybe one of the other lakes that were around this area. So this is all around San Francisco, at least in my head it is. It probably isn't, it's probably like, I don't know, 6 hours away, but in my brain it's like, oh, this is pretty close to San Francisco, so that's where I'm sort of basing it off. And what I wanted this whole setting to be like, I wanted there to be lots of mountains, these, these lakes that are sort of sitting at the base of these mountains, and so I thought this would be a really great setting for like a lakeside town, which we will get to at some stage. You will see a bit of a discoloration of the grounds that I've sort of mapped out where I want the town to go. It's probably not going to be this big, but we'll work on that at some stage. But I do quite a lot of mapping out of where I want particular areas to go. So towns and nature, environmental features as well that are, very prominent things that I want to include in this series. Trying to map them out so that I don't, get to, building this whole area up and go, oh, I really wish I included this really cool valley, or, you know, wish there was some sort of lakeside village that I could have stuck down here, but now I've got no room for it. I've already detailed all this work. So, you know, it's really important to map it out, figure out where things are going to go. Quite often I will neglect to figure out where the train line's going to go, and then when I build all these towns up, I go, oh, damn, I completely forgot about the train line, or, you know, like the highways. The highways are sort of put in places that aren't really realistic or whatever. So it's really important to figure out exactly where you want things to go. And the way that I base things around this whole series is I try to detail the areas that I know are going to be set in stone, and then other areas, so places like I am building right now or terraforming right now, I don't exactly know what I want to go around here. So the types of mountains that I'm creating, they're very under detailed, they're backdrops, it's like the gist of what I want to go here, but it's not exactly. So what I do want this whole area to be is I want it to be very mountainous. These valleys are going to be where I guess little towns might sit, or industry. It's where the highways are going to be stretching around. So, you know, we might get back over into this area and develop this up way further on down the track. But those mountain areas, those ridges, they're basically pretty under detailed around the perimeter of the map, just until we get to this spot. Whereas I guess all the terraforming I do around the lake and around the you know, other areas that I was working on the last episode, they're pretty set in stone. I like the way they look, and I'm probably going to keep them pretty similar to what they are right now. So this whole area that we're working on in this episode is going to be like a redwood forest. There's going to be areas that are going to be more industrial. There's going to be some areas that are just going to be towns. There's probably going to be one main town that's going to sit here, which we'll talk about when I get to it. But that's going to be like the most prominent town. Whereas like there might be little, you know, little neighborhoods or little villages here and there, but not quite that many more around this area. We want this area to be a big focus on nature, you know, trying to get some really cool environmental features in this spot, and mostly just working with those big pine trees that you see around, you know, around this area that I'm sort of taking inspiration from. Around Lake Tahoe, around Yosemite National Park. These areas, I think, well, this is like my bucket list. I really want to get to this area one day. Hopefully soon, who knows, we'll see how we go, but I've always had a massive interest for this area. I think it's beautiful. We don't really have anywhere like this in Australia. We don't really get these types of redwood trees. They're pretty iconic to this particular spot. I just know in Australia, our forests are really different to this sort of landscape, which is probably why I'm so intrigued by it. A technique that I've only just started using to you know, really detail up some of these more nature-based areas is getting right down in street view and sort of seeing the types of foliage that are around the highways, and then like zooming right out so that I can also see how the highways interact with the environment, how they snake up these mountains, go through the ridges. That's like gives me a really good understanding of the types of highways and the types of foliage to put around here. I'm going to be using a mod called Forest Brush Tool, or Forest, no, I think it's probably Forest Brush Tool, I'll probably got something like that. I can't remember the exact name of the mod, but basically it allows me to choose the types of foliage and the types of trees I want in this area. And again, I go to a bit of detail around the areas that I'm like 100% sure where I want things to go. And then around some of the other areas that we're going to be working on much later on, or just the backdrop for, you know, I guess some of the other places we're going to do in detail, they're less detailed. And that's a good way to then save on the FPS. It's a good way to save on time too, because you don't want to just detail all these areas that you're never going to ever see or never going to get to. So, you know, trying to save my detail work to the areas that have the most amount of attention. And when I say attention, areas that I'm going to be doing in live streams, areas that you guys can be seeing in time lapses and episodes, and you know, other cinematic sort of stuff. Whereas some areas of this build are going to be backdrop for a long time, and we might even totally redesign how some of these valleys look. Who knows? We'll see how we go. Where I'm working right now is going to be this really windy and quite steep valley that I'm probably just going to leave as like a big national park. Don't think I'm going to do any sort of building work in here, so it's really going to be, it's not going to be very City Skylines-esque. I know that they probably had this envisioned when they released the game, but it's kind of funny to be developing up like a landscape, like a national park, or having such a big focus on nature in a game that is based around building cities. And again, I'm not going to do too much detail work on this valley. A lot of the cliff sides, a lot of the terraforming around here is pretty raw, like it's not very detailed, it doesn't look that nice. I plan to get back here in like a particular episode. I might even spend a couple of episodes detailing up this valley, making it into this really beautiful national park, you know, this area that people are driving out of Montana to come to, keeping it just very nature-based. And I'm really looking forward to having like a detailed, at least like a couple of detailed episodes where we're just building national parks and, you know, focusing on foliage and where trees sit and where rocks sit. Grey Flame has just released all these really amazing rocks that I plan to put around this area too, creating these really nice cliff faces. And yeah, I just can't wait. And like I said before, rapids. I want rapids going through here so that people are taking kayaks and, you know, going on like massive adventures around here. And I think that it's probably not the right setting for a dam, and I'm glad I didn't go for that. That dam was going to sit probably closer to Montana, which is the capital city, and this area will be more focused on just like nice windy highways. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be like a really nice place to actually watch cars drive around. Like, I'm really looking forward to just making some driving videos where you're just driving around these valleys. Particularly going from like a big journey from here to then Montana, which is a city where you drive through all the swamps, and you know, it's just gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to developing that up. So yeah, really not going into too much detail work here, just trying to go, you know what, we're gonna get back to this spot at another stage. Let's just chill out. We'll get here eventually. Now I'm trying to figure out where some of the rails are going to go. So we have this bridge that stretches along that river that we just worked on, where that valley basically connects up to this whole area. And the rail, so basically there's two lines. One is going to be more for the passenger service, so this whole town's going to be connected up to the Marble Mountain interstate passenger service commuter train. And then we are also going to have a bit more of a freight service, so that we can start getting a lot more of the industry connected up, because actually next episode is going to be a bit more of a low-key focused on budget episode. So we're going to be focusing on trying to get a bit of a profit, and yeah, I think industry is going to play a big part in that. And I think a lot of the problems that I have with not making money is probably based around the fact that a lot of my industry is so spread out that it really needs to be connected up quite well to actually get the industry and the cargo to the right spots, so that my factories and so that my unique factories and warehouses and stuff are actually getting products around the city, around the whole Marble Mountain in a much better fashion. Because at the moment, I think I've probably done too many changes to everything that we're not really seeing too much of, not too much connectedness at this stage, because we've made so many changes. So, oh man, this lake, by the way, the live play which you're about to see, it's so beautiful. I'm so happy with this whole lake. I'm actually dying to get here and start working on it, but there's other areas that I want to get to before I move over here. Desert's the main priority at this stage, and so for some reason I decided to start building on the other side of Montana's river in a live stream that I did like 2 weeks ago. Man, I've just like really opened up a whole big project, whereas I should be focused around here, but oh well. I'm sure we can get back over here at some stage. So now working with the forest brush tool, amazing tool. It allows you just to pick the right sort of trees that you want in this area. So I'm going for a mix of these really nice big high redwood pine trees, and also a bit of low foliage too. I made a bit of a mistake by just going pretty crazy with the amount of foliage around here, and then I realized that it actually looks much better when you go in clusters, which is a technique that Strict Toaster talked about all the way back in Cedar Valley days, and it's something that I always remember, is because foliage, I think, in this game looks best when it's in clusters. And yeah, quite often I just go, yeah, let's just put down a whole bunch of trees, and I just go, wow, and trees are everywhere. Whereas I think it looks better when you do it in bulks, little clusters of trees, which you'll see in greater detail in the live play, which is pretty much now. Oh man, can't wait to show all these changes. All right, let's get into it. I think when we finish off this area, I think this will probably be one of my favorite spots in Marble Mountain. I really love these pine, big, giant trees. I think they're just so awesome. And now that we've got this much nicer looking mountain range, I'm just loving this area. And I'm so glad we ended up putting down this lake here. It's going to be just so picturesque. And that town, man, I almost just want to work in now, but I'm going to hold off. It's going to be a while until we get to this spot. But let me know in the comments section what you think. If you are super keen to get here, if you're hanging out for some other areas, yeah, let me know. I think that's good timing because there's going to be a train station here. So we're going to have this whole commuter passenger service that's going to get people into other areas of Marble Mountain. There's going to be a town here at some stage. Might not be as big as this. It might be much smaller. Because it's probably going to be much smaller. Considering we're going to have some sort of biggish town slash city over here, and I think that will probably make this a little bit smaller than what I've mapped out. It's going to probably mostly sit around the water's edge, and it'll be a bit spread out. There'll be obviously be a town center based around this train station and this highway that's going to come to a bit of a crawl when it comes through the center of the town, but it's going to be really nice, especially when we start making those journeys from here, going through the countryside or the swamplands. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait. So, some of the things we've been working on, like I said in the time lapse, I wanted to keep it pretty under detailed. It's still quite nice and picturesque, but we're going to be detailing a lot of this area in actual episodes. So there'll be like 2 episodes based around this valley, and you know, when we get to around these areas, we'll probably put in some industry and some other little farmlands and nature spots, and probably work on some of the trees a bit more too, because they're just sort of scattered around. But when we do get around here, it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be super cool. Whoa, sorry, just smashed the mic with my with my hand. Okay, so a couple of things I want to show you. Around this base of the mountain, I'm going to have a road that's going to be dragged around here. Can't figure out whether I'm going to have a highway or whether it's going to be more of like a street. But yeah, there's going to be like a road that comes around here. This whole highway, so we looked at this last episode, but this is now a much more beautiful drive into this valley. I've reduced the amount of trees around here, by the way, if you haven't realized from last episode. But now that we have this whole detailed area, the trees, the foliage around here now is making a lot more sense. It really opens up to such a beautiful spot. Man, so cool. It's so awesome. We have over here, we have like, this is not set in stone. We're going to have like some sort of intersection here. Maybe this will be even the spot where I get Skipper to build when I get him to come back into Marble Mountain. But yeah, we'll put a proper intersection here. The train line that comes around. So this line is going to be mostly passenger service that's going to come through the town. Whereas we have another line that comes from around here. That's going to be probably mostly cargo. At the moment, it just goes through a tunnel. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I feel like that's a bit of a waste. We could have it snake around here and go up the ridge or something like that. That works for the time being. This one, I got super lazy and just dragged a tunnel connecting up to there. But that's definitely not going to stay there. I think that sucks, to be honest. But that line's pretty important because we have this industry here, and we'll also have, like I said, a town, something over here. So that'll probably stretch over there. So we actually can connect it up to that town. And then this highway stretches around here, which I really love that it kind of opens up to this lake. And then, you know, you can either take the right-hand turn into that town, or you just stretch around and follow this this highway, which, let's just follow it a bit. Yeah, under detailed. So all this is very, very, very under detailed. We'll get to this spot eventually, some other time. The main highway stretches around here and connects up to the greater region, and then we also have a much smaller highway, just a 1-lane highway, And I have no idea what I'm going to do with this area. I don't know whether we're going to keep it pretty nature-based or whether we build some other smaller town. Because I mean, really, that's a bit of a distance. So maybe there's some sort of industrial area or some sort of town, or I don't know. We could do anything around here. But let me know. This might be better off suited for some farms or something. We also have this road that comes through here. So it's like again, 1 lane highway, and I actually want to build some sort of, I don't know, some sort of national park here that has like massive boulders and stuff like that. I'll probably reduce the amount of trees that come around here. And we have like this highway that, you know, nothing is connected here, but we'll probably have some sort of intersection. There'll be some sort of town around here, or like some farming regions at the base of these hillsides. And what else did I want to show? Oh yeah, around here. So this is going to be, I can't wait to get into here. This is going to be a really, really fun couple of episodes. I'm going to build this very similar to like Yosemite National Park, except I guess it's going to be much smaller. It's going to be more based around like these rapids that will probably have, you know, these sort of rocks that are, you know, wedged in all around this valley. All this cliffside is so under detailed. I mean, we'll get into this at some point, but the amount of water that's trickling through here is, I think, is perfect. And what I did is I pretty much just was playing around with the levels of water just so that they were, you know, we're just getting like a very, very gradual amount of water coming through, and it starts off pretty strong, but it really starts to disappear as we come down this ridge. Even like in areas around here, we'll probably make this more of a waterfall-y area. We'll still work on this, but I think that's gonna be so nice. And there's a fair bit of room to work in as well. I mean, it might not look very big, but that's a pretty big chunk of Marble Mountain, to be honest, which is great. That's what I wanted. That's right, I want to talk about future work on the dam. So originally the dam was going to be put here. I'm really glad I didn't put it there. Instead, this whole area up here is it's very outdated. I think that this will probably be the place where we end up having the dam, which I think makes a lot of sense with Marble Mountain being up here. I think there's going to be a fair bit of runoff, and you know, all these sort of areas will have a fair bit of runoff. So I think we'll have some sort of dam here. And I was talking to someone the other day, and they said that this doesn't really make too much sense, which I actually agree with. I think instead we're going to have the dam is going to sit around here. It's going to be a bit of a basin. It won't be as big as this. It'll be much, much, much smaller. But it'll sit around this area, and then we'll have a bit of a trickle of water coming down into this valley. All this needs to be redone. I want to make this more of a, I don't know, I think we could do much better. So that's future development for that area, and we'll put that dam in up there. And up here, I didn't really talk about this area. This was very temporary, but I really like this bridge. I think it's gonna be super pretty. Man, so nice. Man, when we start detailing up all this, it's gonna just look so great. And especially when we start driving around here, like even just following some of these cars, it's just so nice. Like, I spend so much of my time just driving, to be honest. It's really, really nice. So a couple of techniques that I don't think I really spoke about in the time-lapse. I really didn't speak about it in the time-lapse. Something that I was doing was creating some of these mountain ridges, because I wanted to make it so that there was like a different color of these ridges on either side of the mountainside. You probably didn't see me use this, but I was using this ground texture. What's this called again? The surface tool. Super old mod, but super useful. And I was using this to just change some of the color of the mountain. You can actually see the difference between them over here. But you know, when I go into a bit more detail around these areas, you can actually just hide them in the cliffside. And what that does is it just changes a bit of the color, making this side a bit browner, a little bit more, a little bit darker. Whereas this side's going to be a bit more, it's going to be much greener. It can actually see the different colors as well, also using a bit of these ground textures just to change a bit of the color there. It's really, really, really useful. So that's something that I highly suggest when you're creating these sort of areas. Again, I've got to work on them a little bit more when I come back in here with a greater detail. But that, guys, is a wrap The next couple of episodes, we're going to be working around the desert, and there's a good reason why I'm not showing you this far, because I've actually already worked on it. Far out, it looks good. I'm just going to give you a little peek. It's in there. It's going to be such a cool build. So that's going to be next episode, so I hope you do enjoy it. But if you have enjoyed this episode, then please let me know in the comment section, and by rating up the video also helps me out a ton, so thank you for doing that. But guys, until next week, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later.